This is a weekly roundup for the week ending December the 6th, 2024. I am Jason Payne, bringing you 12 stories presented from the past week that we had in our rundown for our morning news show, which is called Things You Might Not Have Heard. These are 12 stories that we're revisiting as top stories of the week, stories that need another look, stories that had some updates that we really need to get into, and some stories, just because I can't get over them, they're back again. This covered Friday, November the 30th, 2024 to Friday, December the 6th, 2024, the stories that we've already presented. We'll explain how they got here, how we're talking about them here in just a bit. But we'll remind you that you want to find out more about our whole project while we exist. Go to the website, thisisconversationproject.com. Many calls to action once you get there. And of course, email us directly with your comments, concerns, and all complaints to the conversation inbox at gmail.com. That's where the Karens get their say. And we watch all the responses, we read them all. We don't always respond to them all because some are kind of mean. As I said, I'm Jake Payne. This is for the week that ended December 6th, 2024. Let's get into the headlines. These are literally no particular order. Just they literally lined out how they lied out over the week. Although this first one is very particular there on purpose, number one, because it was probably going to be the top story all week. And it's still a top story, but overtaken by some other events that just got more salacious, more headlines. And the first story we're talking about is Hunter Biden, who was pardoned by his dad, who is Joe Biden, the president, on his tax evasion and gun charges. Now, on the first day of December, the very first day, Sunday, middle of the late evening, I guess, everyone was kind of wrapping up. I was literally working on some things to bash Kash Patel for the rest of the week and some other the picks that Donald Trump was working on. But President Biden found a way to screw the whole thing up by pardoning his son after saying he wasn't going to. Hunter Biden was pardoned for federal charges for gun charges, holding a gun while being a drug addict, and tax evasion. Millions of dollars evaded for taxes because he was on drugs or something. These are federal crimes that he was going to be charged with this upcoming week, but because he got the pardon that went back, oddly enough, about 11 years, covering anything that was done or might have been done up until that point, Hunter Biden is now free and clear to do whatever he wants to. Everything's being thrown out completely because the president's pardon power has that power. In 2024, the conviction for lying in a federal gun form that was saying he was not a drug addict when he got a gun in 2018, never used a gun, but he just lied in the form. And then $1.4 million in taxes, a separate charge. Two charges that was going to get him some time in jail. He was most likely seeing a good chunk of time in jail for one or both of them, and now he's free. Now, what made this a big deal is the people, the gnashing of teeth and the wringing of hands and the fainting on the fainting couches from many sides. As expected, people on the right side, people who were more Republican, people who were more along the lines of that, were saying this is not right because it wasn't right after Biden, the elder, said he was not going to pardon his son. He did it last minute, said he didn't want any retribution coming to his son after what's going on. The people on the left who were really kind of pissed off because he said he wasn't going to do it, just kind of proved more along that they can't really trust him. Like I said, he wanted to keep retribution, keep his son from falling into some sort of deep state of another drug addiction going forward. Although many people supported the effort, saying that it's his son, there's no way I could have got away with not pardoning my son. It does go to tell us exactly what people were thinking going forward. And when he kept insisting the process was going to work itself out, he was not going to do anything to intervene. And in the end, he did intervene. If you want to comment on any story we have to talk about, just comment in the comments. If you're watching this live, we're doing this live, and we're actually doing it on Saturday for a change. Just give me a response in the live chat. I'll try to respond to it as we go along to it if I haven't passed it. But we want this to be a conversation. This is not just a monologue, not just a show, a recap show. This is actually a conversation based on the conversations you said. The reason why we talk about Hunter Biden, because it's conversational. Other stories we have are also conversational as well. Although it took a few days to get here, this story actually overtook all coverage of everything. Donald Trump coverage is now sort of coming back into the fold, but we were fixated on this brazen, broad daylight assassination in New York City. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson fatally shot in New York. The 50-year-old executive was approached by gunmen, masked gunmen, if you will, 6:45 a.m. local time in New York City. Shot in the back and the leg. He was pronounced dead on the scene arrival when he got to the hospital as quickly as he could from there. Now, this is something that people watch unfold literally as they're watching their morning news happen because it just sort of happened. and became such an enigma, such a stigma, and such a point of contention that we're not quite sure where the actual ire lies. Here's the thing. Brian Thompson was essentially not a great guy and was about to be investigated or let something known about some bad things going on in his world. That's of his job. He has personal things as well, but apparently his job wasn't working so well as well. So with that, we don't know this. He's walking to his scheduled appointment at a shareholders meeting that's happening there in their investors meeting happened there in New York City in Manhattan. Just walked from his hotel. No actual security from there because they didn't need security, I think, from this one spot. It's a open meeting. Everybody knows he's going to be there. I mean, TV folks are covering it, whatever. And the man comes out of nowhere, although he was just not laying in wait, shoots a guy, and then disappears. He comes into town, and now let's get to the man who shot the man. We have no idea who he is. He comes into town 10 days early on a bus from Atlanta. He has a fake ID, and he uses it to check into a hostel. He's walking around New York City all week long wearing hoodies and masks. The only way we have this picture you see in the video with his face and the smile is that one day while checking into the hostel, one of the attendants was like, I bet you have a great smile under there, and just flirting with him. And he pulls it down and he smiles and then goes back about his business. Other than that, all we have are pictures of his eyeballs. He goes to Starbucks. He goes everywhere around town, and they have certificate pictures of just the top of his face. It's amazing. And it seems like he's jumped onto a bus, drove out of town, and is found his way away again. He's gone. It's done. We're not going to find him. Although police in New York City think they're going to find him because that's what they do, but they're going to do their best to do what they can. But he came in, did the job, and escaped. Now, this is going way too long, but I got to get the real meat of the story is actually the response. The response after the shooting was not the thoughts and prayers, but the thoughts and prayers were not authorized. We don't have clearance for thoughts and prayers. We don't care. We're glad Brian Thompson was killed. There are a lot of responses on social media and a lot of responses I've seen personally in my social media from people I know who are happy for the demise of Brian Thompson because they think he's a bad dude, think United Healthcare is a bad company, and they want to see more of this. Not that it's going to be blood in the streets for everyone, but CEOs of healthcare companies and CEOs of many other larger companies have had their faces pulled from their websites so no one can identify them and think, hey, this is a great idea. Let's do it too. This is a story that we're going to continue to get onto, even though we have less and less and less and less actual information on what to do about it. We don't know what happened. So we're going to find out sooner or later, or maybe never. This is one that, unfortunately, it's up to good old-fashioned shoe leather to make this thing work. And I think we may be out of that going forward because the clues, even though we have all the surveillance technology in the world these days, the clues aren't just adding up. The headline for story number 3 is one that was not a largely engaging story, I'll admit, but this is a story that has deeper undertones and had enough comments talking about this. And people did sort of say, yeah, I think I experienced that we had to bring it up quickly and see if it gets some extra run for the weekend. Amazon is sued by DC Attorney General for allegedly excluding neighborhoods from Prime delivery. And this is something that, DC Attorney General seems to want to get after Amazon. So they've popped a couple things against them. This is the newest suit. This suit alleges that the company secretly excluded 2 predominantly black zip codes, that being 20019 and 20020, from its fastest Prime delivery service. Essentially, the same day, overnight, next day service does not actually get Prime service. They basically get UPS and USPS, the postal service and the delivery service from Brown, which is not necessarily bad, not necessarily slow, not necessarily fast, I should say. Or not necessarily slow. Yeah, like I said, not necessarily slow, but UPS means they have to put it off to a third party and do their shipping rates there. And so to add extra time, as opposed to taking it internally, putting on one of their little trucks and driving it down the street on the way. This is something that Prime members who pay a membership fee, who live in these zip codes, don't understand they're not getting. And they're not getting it not because there's an issue. Amazon lists those zip codes as dangerous places. And they're dangerous places may or may not be because there are zip codes that are predominantly black and men have issues there as well. That way, to keep their drivers safe, they leave it up to the postal service and let them show up and do that. About 48,000 residents live in these areas, so they pay Prime memberships, $139 annually to not receive same day or 2 day deliveries, to wait for the mailman to send it on the slow roller train. This has been happening since at least mid 2022. So this is something the Attorney General's been looking at. So this is not the first thing that Attorney General has tossed out there. The lawsuit wants to halt the practices of alleged deceptive practices and secure restitution and damages for impacted customers. Essentially, you pay for Prime this time. You can't get any of those fast deliveries. You should get a check back. The district attorney in DC seems to have a thing on for Amazon, or seems trying to want to win something over by busting up on Amazon. So there's a lot of things that they sort of allege that way. But this is a serious thing and a serious issue. If you believe that you're paying for something, you're not getting full service, you should talk up to your attorney general. You should say something, and they should investigate it. This is one that Amazon may not get away with for much longer. We may not get away with much longer stories on Britney Spears because they're becoming fewer and fewer. Now, she is still working. She's doing limited things. So there's things going on there. But she has been very quiet on her socials, not doing any of the crazier things, complaining about paying child support, which is something she can do on that end. But at this point, she can't complain much about the marriage, whether arranged, forced, or whatnot, because it's done. On her birthday, Britney Spears declared she was legally single from her ex-husband, Sam Asghari, and also that she's moving to Mexico. I guess she was in Cabo celebrating for her birthday. I think that's where she was, in Cabo, but she's also saying she's staying in Mexico, living there forever, and that she's officially divorced. All the paperwork is signed. She is free to do what she can do. She can hang out who she wants to and dance around with all the guys she wants to, because her husband can't say anything about it. Neither can her father, because the ending of the conservatorship. Her 43rd birthday was a great day for her. Have the legal status of her finalization of a divorce happening on that day, and of course, moving to Mexico. She's now independent. She's now free to do what she wants to, and we're happy for her. We are going to save some time on other stories because this is a very quick and easy story. Britney Spears is now divorced. Britney Spears is no longer attached to this husband. I believe this is the third husband, and we hope that she can find some sort of peace, some sort of love. And one of the issues I think she had with Sam was she wanted to have a baby, and he said no. Maybe that's coming up soon because she misses the love of her kids, who don't seem to want to hang out with her. This can get really ugly really fast, as Britney Spears is someone we've all loved and cared about since she was a tot on the Mickey Mouse Club, and a tot dancing to Hit Me Baby One More Time. And we watched her grow and mature and unmature and go through serious issues. So many people are looking at Britney as she could have been what a Taylor Swift is right now, without the weird interventions that came into her life. Without that, she could be her. She could be the Beyonce we're talking about still, as opposed to the side story that's Britney Spears. We'll see how this one goes on going forward. Now that the end of the story is that Britney Spears is free to do what she wants to do, even with the sort of unreconcilable differences between her husband and many of her family members. We'll see what happens for this holiday coming forward. I thought we're going to get away without Elon Musk this week. I tried my best to move stories around, even though he was in the news for some things that really did things that are particular, including the fact that he's apparently in France right now with Donald Trump. That's a whole other story. Why are we talking about Elon Musk? It has nothing to do with government stuff. It's all about your love for 20-sided die and figurines that look like dragons. Because Elon Musk said something, a little tweet here or there, about the consideration of buying Dungeons and Dragons, and people on the internet are a little weirded out about it. Now, just like we had with the first story, where some people are like, oh, that's great, someone should buy that thing out because it sucks. Here's where it gets interesting. Dungeons and Dragons was acquired by Hasbro, I don't know, 20 years ago, a while back. Dungeons and Dragons was originally just the tabletop paper game on its own company. And then Hasbro bought a couple things up. I believe Hasbro or one of the other toy companies owns like Magic the Gathering, things like that, because it's great for the portfolio and it helps boost your things. And it was a way to essentially save the game. It's not the game I played 30, 40 years ago as a teen, and I don't have the time for it now. It's a totally different ball game, which is probably why, it's exactly why Elon Musk jumped into the ring with this one. He said it's also not the game he played in his youth and wants to make D&D great again, apparently. So on the 40th anniversary book, or there were comments made about the product lead and the 40th anniversary book, and Musk took extension to an attempt to distance the game from original creators. Essentially, the old guard, Gary Gygax, and those folks are essentially being, wiped away from the memories of old Dungeons and Dragons. Because of that, Musk is going to fix it. Yeah. So how are they going to fix it? Well, he's going to buy Hasbro. And although Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, which owns Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, they also own Transformers and My Little Pony and Monopoly and things like that. So the people who care about Transformers and Monopoly, My Little Pony, a little weird that Elon Musk wants to fix one thing and buy everything altogether, because some things he buys and you go, well, he didn't create Tesla. He bought it. He did well with it. He didn't create SpaceX per se. He made his transition to it and it's going well. He made the Boring Company and it does tunnels that nobody wants. He bought X and changed it from X to Twitter, and people are leaving it for Blue Sky now. It is the kind of reality of what's going on. But Musk is a genius. I will say that for him. Musk is a very brilliant, smart man. He has those issues that he brings up often about, being on the spectrum, and that making him sort of weirding and not being able to really understand people, which is fine. But then he does all the crazy trolling bad stuff because he's rich and can do that. Nobody can say anything about it, which is where the issue is. Will he actually buy Dungeons and Dragons? Some people think, it could use some help, but I don't think we need Musk rolling the dice for you on this one, my opinion. The story at number 6 is back because we thought we were done with it, but we're not. Now, if you're watching the video, you're seeing two beautiful ladies, and they are not Barbie dolls, but there are Barbie dolls in their likeness over the movie that's going on, Wicked. And that's where the issue is. It's not with the movie. Yes, it's 2 parts. And other people that nagged at me and saying, it's got to be 2 parts. There's so much movie. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm not seeing either one of them. Mattel is being sued over the Wicked dolls. Wicked dolls, they are, because of the mistakenly linked porn website on the packaging. We have recovered this so many times. I will say it one time quickly, not even with any silliness. 2 websites in question. Wickedmovie.com promotes the movie. Wicked.com is a porn site. The QR code on the boxes for the Barbies, this first initial run of these Barbie dolls, actually went to Wicked.com, and some kids saw it. They were distressed, and now California has a case of false advertising and $5 million in damages on a class action lawsuit. Holly Ricketts has filed this one. A mother from South Carolina filed it in California's class based on the URL that went to the website that was not there. She claims that her daughter suffered emotional distress upon encountering the explicit content from the unidentified link I just identified, actually. They're looking for $5 million in damages for affected purchasers of the product. Mattel issued an apology and initiated a recall of the affected dolls. Although the dolls weren't affected, it was the boxes so much, and that happened. The film brought in many dollars, $263 million in its since release, starring Cynthia Enviro as Elphaba and Ariana Grande, with mixed results, as Glinda, the soon-to-be good witch. So Wicked's doing fine. Mattel's doing okay, but now they have this lawsuit to deal with. Is it frivolous? Probably not. Is it worth chasing? Also probably not. But it's there. So if you or your child were harmed by clicking the link on that video and seeing the disturbing pictures, which I'm sure were disturbing, jump on in, get your $3.75 of the class action lawsuit, and get ready for Wicked 2 in about 18 months. Quick pause for a bit of promotion for ourselves. We'll have more promotion at the end and lots of calls to action and explanation of what's going on. But if you are new here, if you stumble upon this and not know what's going on, this is a part where we talk about the Conversation Project and how we need more people in it. We are a small channel on YouTube. We are a small influencer channel out there on the internet. And in order to be a bigger channel, we need more people to follow us. So if you're liking what you're seeing, This is what we provide every single day. We provide news coverage that's as straight down the middle as possible. I learned today a kind of a tactic, kind of an understanding that all news is biased. I'll do something on that very soon to explain how we do stuff. But the news we do is more or less pulled from the heartlines, pulled from the articles, pulled from the news sites, and sanitized via some chat GTP magic to be as clean and concise and hopefully right as possible. Chat GTP does that sometimes. If you like the news we're presenting for you and the commentary that I go with it, you don't think I'm too crazy, or you think I'm really crazy, but you want to have someone to yell at, I know how it works sometimes. Like the presentations we're presenting, like this video, like our videos you have on other platforms. And so that I can see I'm doing the right thing. The algorithms can see these guys doing the right thing. They can present it to other people to see it, and the other people can see maybe this is a good enough thing to watch. If you know someone who enjoys this type of news coverage, share it with them directly so they can get into it, and maybe they will like it and go forward with that one. And maybe if you're not subscribed at the moment, you consider us for a subscription. You consider putting us in your feed so that we pop up based on whatever platform you're using regularly. We ask you to check us out directly so you can see exactly what's there. But based on what you have, I'm not even asking for notifications. I'm not asking for that stuff yet. If you subscribe to us, you will get our stuff in your feeds whenever we have things going on. This is a consistent thing, a weekend show for the weekly roundup. We have the daily show that is things you might not have heard. We have clips from that every day. And when I can interject things as time allots, that happens as well. You'll see when it comes out, and you can get the initial love to get into that one, into those as quickly as they come out. Let's go back to the news and headline number 7. Elton John says he's lost his eyesight and struggles to see his new stage musical. That being The Devil Wears Prada. He has written songs and did some music for that one, but he's not being able to enjoy the process of getting off the ground because of his eyesight. A few months back, we talked about an eye infection he had that had him kind of not seeing so well. We didn't realize that it was going to a more permanent state. Now, we're not sure if the infection was actually the cause of what's going on or just a side effect of something that's going on there. But he has essentially lost his sight to be able to enjoy things. In fact, the 77-year-old Sir Elton John says he can't really go into a studio and do any new work because he can't read lyrics. He can't read and write anymore. He just can't make things out. When he stood on stage at this premiere of the show, he thanked his husband for being literally his eyes in this thing. David Furnish has been the man to keep things going for him because he could not see how things are going. He can explain it to Elton. Elton can say what's going to happen, and he could tell what needed to be done. Now, The Devil Wears Prada, the musical, is based on the 2006 film and the novel before that, with the music composed by Sir Elton John. Mixed reviews, some critics describing it as visually appealing, but ultimately unsatisfying. This is not a musical I would go to check out. I'm not even a musical guy, so I wouldn't really be looking for this one. But that has been a thing. Health issues have been an issue all for a while for Elton John, and the eye issue is now a newest thing going on. The man is 77, and he's had some miles and some rough miles on that one, so it's not something to not be expected. But Elton John, a treasure. I call him a national institution, but I'm not sure if his citizenship is actually in the States or in London, to be honest. But he is definitely something and someone we need more of these days, because we need more people with his positivity, more people with his insight, more people with his talent, even if his talent is limited based on his limitations at the moment. Oh, baby, it is time to get that earworm in your head, because we're talking about the Village People and the Y.M.C.A. Although I will say, in the Navy has a pretty good beat to it as well. And of course, Macho Man, my actual personal favorite. But the Village People, one singer of the Village People, William Villas, who is the cop, although I think he used to be the soldier, but now he's the cop. He wrote the song. He's the lead writer for this one and the lead lyricist for the Village People. He's expressing gratitude for the song. He's saying he loves his insurgent. It was a number one hit on Billboard's Top 100 for about 2 weeks, and the song is 40 years old. It's something that's amazing. The Village People, are getting paid. The writers getting paid. They're getting taken care of. The song is not just a wedding song or a college dance song. It's everywhere. And because the Trump dance has it going all over, Willis is appreciative for Donald Trump doing that. And something I saw in an interview recently is the fact he actually, as other singers, other artists were taking their music away, He saw that Trump was dancing to it. It was popular. People were getting into it. And he let him keep it for the love of the people, because the people love the YMCA dance. So he talked to the record label and said, please keep this because he can keep it. And they're making money off of it. And it's more popular. Now, the biggest thing, and the weirdest part of the discussion of this one is YMCA. The YMCA, Young Men's Christians, I forgot the A, some Young Men's Christians Association, Young Christians activities, was a group, and it still exists in some sense, but basically back in the day, it was a place for young men to hang out. It was a place to hang out with the boys. And that's what the Willis said about writing the song. When he says hang out with the boys, back when he's a kid, he used to play basketball, play sports. That's where you hung out with your friends. Although it's been hijacked as a gay anthem, as hang out with the boys being in the double entendre meeting, which is not where they're going. Willis is okay with that and okay with gays taking on as their anthem, but doesn't like the portrayal in the media when news people say this is a gay anthem, because then there's connotations. And so there's something where he may sue people in the next year. Maybe not. You can call it a gay anthem, but depending on who you are, Rachel Maddow can call it a gay anthem when she's Rachel Maddow, but not when she's doing news or something like that. It works for them. It is not a gay anthem, so it's about hanging out and playing sports. And yes, you can get a good meal and you can, sleep there back in the day. The references to homosexuality are all sort of innuendo that have been sort of encompassed by folks in the gay community, but is not a song about being gay. So says the writer. So let's go with him. He's very happy what's going on, and he's doing interviews dressed as a cop and looking as coppy as ever. So outstanding job. This is a late story from the week that got nutballs so quick that we still don't know what to think about it. And we're still a bit worried about what's going on in South Korea. For a story, oops, went too fast on that one. For the story at number 9 today. Headline that we're using at this point, because it changed a couple times, is South Korean President Jun survives impeachment vote after declaring martial law this week. Martial law is when the government takes over everything and locks things down. Why was martial law invoked? Well, President Yoon Suk Yeol basically decided that he needed to get some things done. He's not getting things done as the president of South Korea because his parliamentary body, the people that have to actually pass the laws that he has to go ahead and accomplish as executive model, are not passing laws in his way. There are too many people in the opposing party that aren't allowing to get his way. He's a very conservative, very hard-driven person, so that's going on. And he accused those people of essentially being in league with the North Koreans and trying to keep things from them and making national security. So he basically closed Parliament and said, I'm taking over. So after that, about 190 people of the Parliament, who had to fight their way through soldiers who were blocking the Parliament because it was shut down, made their way inside, had enough of a quorum to actually, there's about 300 people total. So they had about 190, enough to get to work. And all that showed up, all they could get through the doors, voted to say no and not allow this martial law. And so the president took martial law away after about 6 hours, the shortest martial law in history of martial laws, if you will. It's there. So after that, the embarrassment, the shame, the sort of why this guy pulled this prank. So everyone was trying to push him to resign or he be impeached. Many folks in his cabinet actually resigned. He took some of them, did not take others of them. And then the vote came in. Because there are 300 votes in their parliament, a 2/3 majority of 200 of those must actually vote in favor of impeaching him to get rid of him. Only 195 of the 190 people that showed up that make a quorum to actually get to try to end martial law, they all voted to end it. But some members of his party did not have the will to pull the trigger and get him out of the way. The anti-state forces that he accused his rivals of is sort of the thing that we need to keep looking out for right now. Here's my bit of commentary, so take it as you will. Our new incoming president has said some things that are inflammatory because he said them the first time he was president. But what's different this time is one, he knows how the government thing works. Two, he's sort of jettisons this sort of brash ideas that he can force people to do what he wants to, and is installing people to do things what he wants to in the front end, getting rid of the folks that are the adults in the room and just having people what's going on, so he can push what he wants to push eventually. That does not mean every single crazy Project 2025 thing is going to go into law, and there will be some way to essentially end our democracy. But let's be clear about things. Donald Trump was not conventional the first time. He'll be even more unconventional this time, whether we like it or not. So calling martial law and just saying, yeah, just kidding. Something like that. Stuff that happens over there. South Korea is one of the premier democracies that gets a lot of love and a lot of attention for it being such a stable democracy, essentially in the face of what's to the north of them, which is not a stable nation and nowhere near democracy. If someone with a little extra gusto in South Korea can take over and hit shot and call shots that don't hit very well, someone with a lot of gusto can do the same thing here. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not projecting anything. I'm not actually that worried. I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think it's going to be. I don't think so. We shall see, because time will have to tell. Quick jump in for a comment. Let's see if I can actually read this. Can Trump get back the hundreds of millions he has ordered to pay for business fraud and the $5 million the judge ordered him to pay for sexual abuse? I don't want my kids to find out about that. There's a bunch of little smiley faces on that. This is for Donald Trump. And we haven't really talked about him there, but this is essentially basically everything's washed away. All the things he's been convicted of and all the things he was on the way to be convicted of and all the things he owes, like all this money, they don't go away. The money thing, I don't know. The things that was going to be convicted of, they kind of go away. The things that are in the books are in the books, and it is there. So I see the little cheeky emojis in that in the chat. So we'll go with that one. But I don't know. But we're not talking about him. We're talking about, at this point, Mox. It's all about Mox, or about James Vanderbeek, who has been selling Varsity Blues jerseys to help pay for his cancer treatment costs. If anyone has ever dealt with cancer, you know it's a bitch. It's insane. It's just ridiculous. And on top of the fact that it's a terrible disease in whatever form you get, your body is literally killing itself. It costs a hell of a lot of money. And as we talked earlier about healthcare plans, they don't want to pay very much. So even though James Vanderbeek has made millions of dollars and is very famous, he needs to pay for his treatments right now, dealing with his stage 3 colorectal cancer diagnosis. Support from family and friends and what he has, but he's also raising some money and bringing some nostalgia back as well. The number 4 jersey from Jonathan Mox Moxon of Varsity Blues, which I don't even know if you can even find anymore because I think it's been banned for so many places, is on sale via his website. Limited replicas that are both regular at $40 and autographed at $80. And so they're not even that pricey. This may be a part of a, it might be just an awareness thing of the cancer. It may be awareness thing of just James Vanderbeek. But it is going on to basically just raise money for his illness, raise money for his coverage. You really can't. I mean, he's not asking for OnlyFans. That's a foreign stuff. It's not asking for one of those donation things that I can't think of in my head because for some reason OnlyFans in my head. He's not. It's not asking for donations. He's not asking for just straight up money. He is trying to give something back in the process. This is one of my favorite actors, and he gets a lot of heat for just being who he is as James Vanderbeek. But this guy has done a lot of great stuff. Of course, he was Dawson of Dawson's Creek. He was James Vanderbeek in Don't Trust to Be in Apartment 23 as the perverse, this utterly just weird version of James Vanderbeek. He was amazingly hilarious, and as an icon for, I guess, guys my age in Varsity Blues. So if you want to support Mr. Vanderbeek and this cause, say what you want about him, reply to him, but go to his website, jvdb.shop, and get yourself a jersey while these things are going. And so you've seen lots of outpouring of support from his his loved ones, his family, his friends, his fans as well. So this is a story out there that you might have missed out in a lot of coverage. This was one that was very popular for a heartwarming mission because we all love Mox from Farsi Blues. So if you have it to give, feel free to give. Many people are starting to not give, a thought about this story as it's becoming another one that changed on us very quickly. That's becoming one of those things like, what the hell happened? Here's the headline that we wrapped up with for the end of the week as we were standing in this moment on Hana Kobayashi. Her family is investigating the possibility she was part of an immigration marriage scam. Details of her story. Very simple. Hana Kobayashi lives in Maui. She's from Hawaii. She went to New York, or was going to New York, for a job. She's a photographer. She was going to New York for a job. She flew from the Big Islands, Hawaii, to Los Angeles. In the process, or in the time frame, she was spouting off some kind of weird stuff, conspiracy stuff, saying someone stole her identity, someone stole her cash, all sort of crazy stuff. Then she disappeared. Her father goes to Los Angeles to look for her, and he dies by suicide. A few days later, we find visual images of her not making a connected flight and visual images of her entering Mexico. In which case, Los Angeles police said, she's not our problem right now. She went to Mexico. She's missing involuntarily because she's not checking with you. The latest wrinkle in this story involves a man named Alan Cacaxi from Argentina. Maybe. Because apparently Mrs. Kobayashi's mother found some paper that showed a purported wedding ceremony with this man at the Maui home. So she may have married some Argentinian man to help gain him citizenship, get him across the border or something like that. And something may have went awry. We don't really know because she's been missing for the time. The attorney representing the family, Sarah Azari, is criticizing the LA Police Department for just stopping the investigation and classify her as voluntarily missing because they don't have an answer. She went to Los Angeles and disappeared. LAPD is saying, well, she came here and left, so we can't deal with it. She's also pushing for people to not get so wrapped up in the marriage scam and hope that they can find Hana Kobayashi safely. We hope they can as well, especially with the sad passing of her father, with circumstances also not quite resolved. So LAPD could be looking into that. But since they've ruled that as suicide, they're giving up on that as well. Public support is starting to wane on this one. And this is not what we had last week, talk about missing white person syndrome. This is a story that seems like it's been played out. Seems like it's done, but it's not done because we don't know where Hana Kobayashi is. We'd like to know so we actually have resolution to a story like this. Resolution coming soon to this story. Now, what we found out on Friday for Daniel Penny, who is on trial for the choco death of the Subway performer Andre Zachary, that he was found, or they were deadlocked for manslaughter, but they're going to vote on negligent homicide come Monday. So there were 2 counts. They couldn't get anything on the big count, so they're going to try to not get him off completely and see what happens on Monday. Maybe they find him not guilty there. Maybe the deadlock there as well. We'll see what happens. He's not done with legal action yet. I said Andre Zachary, as he's responsible for the death of Jordan Neely. Andre Zachary is Jordan Neely's father, and he has filed civil lawsuits against Penny that will go after this is over. Now, a lot of the actual complaints about the lawsuit itself was it was mixing up the focus on what's going on. Penny was already dealing with the case where he's dealing with the actual murder. The civil lawsuit on top of that confused the issue for people trying to follow along. But as we said, he has been basically a mistrial in the manslaughter case. So that one's over. Negligent homicide is that yet to be determined. And on top of that, this one from Penny. It's going to be, it may not be as hard of a road to get to as possible to get something on the civil action, because he could claim that they're pretty legitimately that Penny did get in the way of Neely's civil rights and what he was doing. And the fact that he died from that barrier is a whole nother thing. We'll have to see how this thing plays out. One, involuntary manslaughter or involuntary negligence, and two, this civil suit here. So the people who are seeing this man as a hero for what he did, just like another story he had earlier, these stories are always complicated. They aren't as cut and dry as we want them to believe, or as we want people to all fall in line with our belief, as obviously this guy was saving people from the misery this guy was harassing them. Maybe he held them too long. Maybe he was negligent. Maybe he wasn't just so much saving people, but he was just annoyed enough to try to do something about it, and it just was not the right day. It's up to the jury to find out about the one thing, and another jury to find about the other thing eventually. So we'll eventually get there going forward. That is the plan. That is what we want to see. Resolution. We like resolutions, so we hope to get a resolution for this story. We have number 12, this broadcast. We want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor for all our weekend stuff. And last week we used them as our primary sponsor for most of our things, Ground News. Ground News is a website. It's an app. It's a service that helps you find out what you're not being told in the news. It helps you find out what is actually being held back from you. Because as I said earlier, and I'll do a full video on the explanation, all news coverage is biased to a point. And even if it's a clean version of just a straight news, which people don't tune into because it's really sanitized and boring, just hearing the facts and going away, context must be given in all senses to give you why things sort of worked out they are. And with context, sometimes comes an explanation that fits a narrative, fits a worldview. Whether you see things from a Republican, right-leaning sort of level of conservatism, or a Democratic, left-leaning, super blue sort of things, your news will vary in how it's covered. The words used to present things will vary in how it's covered. The way things are pushed or not pushed will vary in how they're covered. Ground News will help you find where things vary from either local news, national news, or global news as well. They have meters that show you how things are being covered, what news outlets are covering the stories, and how they actually fit along the spectrum, whether they do lean conservative or liberal, or if they're more like a wire service right down the middle. It'll tell you the ratios of how things are being covered. And with their blind spot option, you'll find out what stories are literally not being covered by one side. There are stories that the Republicans are talking all over about that Democrats don't ever see for many reasons. One, it might be it's so salacious that the Democrats don't want you to hear about it. One might be it's not exactly true, so they want the Republicans to want to play it over and over again, so it's kind of in the red meat zeitgeist. The left does exact same things. They play things that are not quite exactly as they seem, so that the right seem worse, or they just don't quite cover it the way they need to be. Ground News will help you get in on the news that will get you better insight on what's happening, and you can form your own opinion based on sources you deem reliable, and that sometimes your mileage may vary. Go to our website. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news. This is a link to our affiliate page for Ground News. They're going to give you half off subscriptions right now. We suggest you get the Vantage plan, get the full package for the news. They're going to give you half off a year subscription at this moment, and they give us a small commission for you using the link. So use our link to get that half off commission, and half off for you and a commission for us to keep the Conversation Project and things like the weekly Roundup going for you, with less of me invading your space and asking you for money. But it all helps. Let's start the promotion. We're of the Conversation Project. Conversation Project lives online at this. It's theconversationproject.com. And what you get with us is news coverage that's pretty interesting. Now, I do have a real background in journalism and news. I covered news on the radio and some TV stuff as well for a good 10 years, maybe a little bit longer in various bits and places. Actually ran a news a network that covered, had some sway over a news department. So I know how news works and presenting it to a crowd, a person of a particular bent. Now that I'm outside those lines, I don't like the way I like it. I get news. I don't like the way the coverage is. I don't like the way the access works, that I don't have access to the pure feed so I can figure out what's good and what's not good. So I spend a lot of time with aggregators and checking things out there to get various news stories from various different sources, various different topics. Some of them are way out of left field, and present them to you to help us pick a good news story. Pick good news stories, I should say. We provide that for you daily, Monday through Friday, in something called Things You Might Not Have Heard. On Monday, 10 stories. The rest of the week, 8 stories that you deem conversational. We put stories out there for you to engage in, and you let us know what stories are tops. We figure out what stories are at the top level and pick from those to present to you in these casts. And the stories that we had today were top engaging stories that made it into the Daily Show that we thought needed to have a little extra love for the weekend in the Roundup. So thank you for that. Thank you for engaging. We'll get to how that works in just a moment. All those links in just a bit. But also the support part of the Conversation Project. We have sponsors. Just heard from, I'm going to talk about a sponsor, Ground News. If you buy from a sponsor, all our links are affiliate links. We get a small commission from everything. Go to our website, see our sponsors page, and you too can help us out that way. We also have partners. Partners sign up with the service we use, the Buy Me a Coffee service, buymeacoffee.com. So we call our levels coffee levels. There's pot of coffee, cup of coffee, and the spare change level. Our spare change level right now, we're listed with spare change with Joy Winters and 3 people at the cup of coffee level, being Harold Braxton, Colby Green, and Eldon Kidd. These people provide us financial support directly and also a line to talk to. I have an email and a video that goes out every week with the trials and tribulations of the Conversation Project going on there. And so most of the really, really sad things go out there. Every so often I give you an update for the world, but most of the sad things, these guys know what's happening. These guys understand. And they also give me guidance and direction going forward. If you want to be a partner and help us do more of these things like this, you think I've deserved that, visit the partnership page at the Conversation Project or go to buymeacoffee.com/J Cleveland Payne. It's that simple. If you've not quite got that level yet, here comes all the extra calls to action that we have for you. You can start with visiting our website and learning more about us and seeing where all the other places we are at. We have links to various other services, various other platforms, our links on X, links on Threads, or links on X again, on TikTok. They're all there. Our link to our email newsletter and places where you can find us in video and audio podcasting are there as well. That's conversationproject.com. The conversation inbox, gmail.com, is our email address. You don't have to be an insider. You don't have to be a partner and let me know what you're thinking. Just email me there and we will talk about it. Now, the feeds. 2 feeds important here are Facebook and X. Facebook.com/this the conversation project and X.com/th_conversation. I know what you're saying. I don't use those things anymore. Well, some people do, and they're the best ways that offer up stats. Threads offers terrible stats, and Blue Sky offers no stats. So until Blue Sky offers me a way to see who saw all my stuff, I can't use them yet as a real source. So when you're still checking up and, spying on that ex-girlfriend from high school, or just checking up on the family, because that's where the family still is, on Facebook or an X, sneaking in just to see how nasty Elon's being today, check us out at our feeds, facebook.com/this is the conversation project and x.com/th_conversation. Engage in the stories we post. Every 50 minutes or so, we post a news story. Engage in it. Like it, love it, hate it, share it, read it, do what you do to just maneuver with it. And as I said earlier, on Monday, we take from the top 30 stories of the 90 we get over the weekend, and we will pick 10 to present for you on Monday. On Tuesday through Friday, 30 stories in a day, 15 or so on the top, pick 8 of those, present for you each and every day. And then from there, we pick 12 stories from the past week that meant something and give you, here, means something to me at least. Hopefully it means something to you going forward. With that, you have explanations, you got the news, we sold you something. We're going to wrap things up right now. The weekly roundup is done for the week ending December 6th, 2024. Now, what stories will make the roundup next week? It all depends on you. You have to engage in the stories we have in the feeds all week long. And as we present them day by day by day, we'll peg a couple to throw up together and give it to you in a weekend show just like this one. It's that simple. And if you want to comment about this weekend show, that's as simple. It's simple. Email me at the conversation inbox at gmail.com. Of course, reply in the comments of wherever form you're watching this video on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, there as well, and see what you do for us. Now, if you're on YouTube, we have extras add-ons as we've just added onto YouTube memberships and the ability to do chats, super chats, and stickers, stuff like that. So if you think we did good here while we're going live, or you just see us on the replay, join a membership group, send us a sticker, go to buy me a coffee or other ways as well. Help support us by A, finances, or if that's not what you can do, B, following on the feeds, being a part of what we're doing, make sure we have the right news stories that all can keep up with. That's all I got for this week. I thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you, news nerds, for being a part of the family. More newsy stuff. And we have some clips of things this weekend that we're talking about, including what I should have said when I talked about the CEO of United Health. Another extension of that one, just basically talking about how the nastiness and the comments of people out there who really wanted to see the CEO killed and are happy about that. That's a whole other thing. I'll probably pop it up here to someplace so you can see that as well. With that, I bid you all adieu. Love you all. Mean it so much. Join us for our daily stuff. Join us for our weekly stuff. Join us whenever you can, because the news is not going to stop. So let's do our best to get the best news out there. We'll see you later.